Okay, people, it's December 25th, 2017. I actually wasn't going to try and make any videos here for about a week or so and just focus, right? But, you know, I'm on book number 2 now. Is it helping? I don't know. I think so, because I'm actually taking more time to go through each section, and hopefully it's implanting itself in my computer brain, right? So that when the time comes, even though I'm under duress and I'm having panic attacks and I'm on the verge of tears, or I just want to lash out because of displaced anger with the whole situation, you know, I can draw on this information that I'm trying to put into my brain. But as I'm doing this, people, I just want to point out that, you know, ever since Uncle John's been gone, sorry, again, I'm really tired and I'm getting really achy. But besides that point, you know, ever since Uncle John disappeared, basically, in on or about February 20th, 21st, you know, I've been like severely gang stalked, right? In terms of like, you know, people calling up the city, trying to get me evicted from my house, and you know, people calling my landlord, tried to get me evicted from my house, people calling up MCFD, trying to get me to lose my grandson on more than one occasion, right? People calling up banks, telling them that Uncle John was brain dead before the year 2000, and therefore that credit card that he, you know, established with me in 2000 with the Royal Canadian Bank is null and void because he didn't know what he was doing, and therefore he's not. And this is third party. This is just somebody phoning up and saying, "Oh, I'm representing Johnny here, and I'm just letting you know that John was, you know, brain damaged, and he's not responsible for." Okay, do you see where I'm going? And you know, getting involved with CIBC Bank and accusing me of elderly abuse, people, to the point where the bank took it hook, line, and sinker, right? So, you know, and this the ongoing non-stop gang stalking on YouTube and on my persons in terms of creeping my yard, you know, knowing when I'm in the yard working, knowing when I'm not working in my yard, and then going on GMOI and posting on that because they've got this little network of retaliating individuals that, you know, don't want to either get caught in terms of what they've done, and two, are siding with their friends because maybe they've been paid off. Who knows? So as I'm going through the Power of Attorney Act for the umpteenth time, I'm reading over these sections again, and again, I'm glad that I'm actually doing this, people, because it's bringing to my attention things that I didn't necessarily notice before. In terms of, I'm going to read it to you because I really want to keep this video short because I just personally want to go to sleep. Problem with that, though, is if I go to sleep, I'll probably sleep for 4, 5, 6 hours, and it's like, oh, I don't know, it's like 6:30 in the evening now, so that means I'd be up till, like, I'd sleep until 12 or something dumb like that, you know, and then I'll be up till like 8 o'clock in the morning, and it will just wing me right back. So I'm trying to force myself to stay up versus take a nap, come back, you know, take a power nap, and then come back and pick up, right? Because, you know, it gets to the point where I can't walk. But besides that point, I just want to read this part here. There's a couple of other things in there I want to read, but before I read it, I do want to, you know, stress again that the people that facilitated this, people, I'm telling you, they must have went online, downloaded their Power of Attorney Act, their, you know, whatever, Guardianship Act, the Mental Health Act. You know, they picked several different acts. They read through them. This is how they did it, people. They read through them and they picked out certain sections out of certain acts to apply it to their actions in terms of to justify what they did. But the thing is that they never did it in a legal manner. In other words, they never went through the public guardian and then trustee. They never took it to court, right? I've said that before. And this hit and miss with this doctor that, you know, wrote a note saying that he was confused, saying that he wasn't confused. Well, that, whatever those suppositions are, hasn't been determined yet. That is just a smear campaign on Fraser Health's part to distract away from the obligation that they had to the patient, in addition to the patient's well-being in general, which included his family, his immediate family, not strangers, right? Trying to come in with piecemeal acts to do what they did. So just to keep it short, I'm just going to read section number 29 out of the Power of Attorney Act in relation to what I just said. So when authority of attorney is suspended or ends, the authority of an attorney is suspended in any circumstances set out in the enduring power of attorney for as long as those circumstances continue. 2. The authority of an attorney ends. This is important. Listen to this one, people. If the enduring power of attorney is terminated. That hasn't been done in a legal sense, people. But they made it look like it has been done. This is what I'm saying, okay? They made it look like, and I'll show you how, or at least they tried to. If the provisions of the enduring power of attorney that give authority of the attorney are revoked. That wasn't revoked. Any of that stuff wasn't done in the correct manner either. Again, there's certain ways that it has to be done. And none of those ways were utilized. There goes that camera. That's what I'm watching for. C. If the attorney resigns in accordance with section 25, well, obviously I haven't resigned because here I am today. D. This is important. If the attorney is the adult spouse and their marriage or marriage-like relationship ends. Well, I'm not a spouse. I was never married to him, although one can say that we had a marriage-like relationship in the fact that I treated him as an equal and he treated me as an equal, and we made decisions together in the household as equals. In other words, I never went off and made major decisions without consulting with him, and vice versa. He just didn't come to me and say, "That's it, Joan's moving in. I don't care what you say, she's moving in." He came to me and he asked me, and then we discussed it for a while before it happened. We had a respectful relationship towards each other to try and make it so that the house ran as smoothly as it possibly could, regardless of what the situation was. Good times, bad times, didn't matter. Now, 2 is becomes incapable or dies. Well, all this gang stalking and, trying to get me to lose my house and, making it so that maybe I lose my grandson, that's what they're hoping, right? And, getting my landlord upset with me and, and stalking me online and, creeping my yard. And, that's enough to drive anybody crazy after a while, right? But it didn't work, obviously. Here's another big one. Is bankrupt. Right? If they could have got me thrown out of my house, everything fell apart, lost my grandson, I had a nervous breakdown. I'm on the cusp of bankruptcy, but I've been on the cusp of bankruptcy for years and 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 years. Anyway, so, but I haven't gone bankrupt. That's the thing. So they can't use revoking my power of attorney under the concept of a bankruptcy because I haven't gone bankrupt, people. But that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping I would go bankrupt, and then it would justify what they did. Is a corporation or a corporation dissolved? I'm not a corporation. And then here's another one. Now, they've done this, but they haven't done it in a court of law. Is convicted of a prescribed offense or an offense in which the adult was the victim. They have accused me of elderly abuse. It was the social workers at the Yale Road Center that started with that rumor in the halls, and then started suggesting it in a roundabout way where it became known that I was abusing John. Only they weren't really being specific about it. We didn't find out that it had to do with refusing his care, which we weren't, because he was in a care facility. Okay, he just wanted to come home, right? And we wanted proper physiotherapy, which they were not providing, and he didn't feel that he needed to go into convalescent care to get it, especially when he had full-grown, able-bodied grandchildren to help him, right, with any plan that would have been implemented in order to get him walking. Although he was walking before he got the lung infection, people. Like I said, he looked after Andre for a week straight while I slept. So he must have been walking. He was chasing after a little 4-year-old. As the social worker sat up there and accused him of not walking before he showed up at the hospital. See how she humiliated him, gaslighted him, and he had to fight and defend himself and tell her, no, I was walking. Like, this is like some sick people that we're dealing with here. Is convicted of a prescribed offense, of an offense in which the adult was the victim. So they basically, like I said, they have accused me of something. They have found me guilty and prosecuted me. And now they're punishing me by throwing out my efforts within a justice system that is supposed to be there for the public. Right? Because I'm already presumed guilty. And now I deserve my punishment, even though I have been punished even before John disappeared, just by the very fact of the way those social workers and the rest of the team were carrying on with conspiring behind John's back, my back, and everybody else's everybody else in John's immediate family, the kids, everybody's back, to harbor him away through illegally transporting him against his wishes or consent for an ulterior motive that we have yet to find out, other than they got away with it without being held accountable. So they took that and they took out the bankruptcy part. They tried to make it look like, I was losing my mind. I worked for a year and a bit straight in the yard just to keep the city happy. Kind of makes you wonder why the city was so hard on me. And then it sparked up again in June, just as court was coming, just as I had to start working on court stuff. All of a sudden, the city showed up again and had me out there for June, July, August, September, October, for another 4 months straight. So it's not like I had a lot of time to work on this, because I'm sorry, you can't do a lot of hardcore yard work, especially when you're not feeling well anymore and you've lost 15 pounds and you're back down to 90 pounds, because that's pretty much what it is, people, right? But you're expected to work like a 10-man crew just so that you don't lose your house, right? And everything else on top of that. And then when you go to pro bono and you ask for help, and they're saying, well, go bankrupt. Well, I wonder why you would want me to go bankrupt. Now I know why. Because if I would have went bankrupt and took their advice, people, I would have definitely for sure lost enduring power of attorney to what's going on right now. Because it says it right here in the Power of Attorney Act. So does that mean that these pro bono lawyers are involved with this process when they're advising you to, think about going bankrupt? That type of thing, as an alternative to the stress that you're going to create yourself if you follow through on it, right? And they don't seem to be too concerned that I'm being accused of crimes that I can't even defend myself against, because no judge wants to hear me any more than for 5 minutes, because the last judge, the only one judge I was in front of, even though we were booked in for an hour and a half, basically let me talk for 15 minutes and then said, I will give you 5 minutes more and that's it. So, you know, how can you defend yourself against that? You can't. You can't, people. So I just wanted just to point that out, right? That, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I'm up against. These people, they picking through these acts and they find the loopholes in there where they can just suggest that you did something, knowing that there's no way for you to protect yourself from those accusations and the gang stalking that follows behind it, because now you have been publicly targeted to be an abuser of an old person, and let that rumorville just run itself free through the system as everybody's groveling over money that they more than likely will never see or touch, except for the few that took the bribe. And you know what's really sad about this? And I'm going to end it on this note. I have been with CIBC Bank since 1990 myself. And they were a very good bank, people. They got Uncle John and I through thick and thin with this family. Kind of like old Betsy. They got us through thick and thin. And then for them to turn around and do shitball stuff like this, it's maddening. And then what's even more maddening, because I'm always behind on my Visa payment, right? Because it's too high, with the interest is too high. But that's the mode of attack. We want to bankrupt me, right? Because if you bankrupt me, and I've called the bank on that, if the bank bankrupts me, then it can absolve itself from doing what it's done in terms of removing me illegally from the power of attorney. But they never were successful at bankrupting me. Not yet, anyway. Right? And unfortunately, for whatever weird reason, you know, when I'm having to deal with them on the phone because I haven't paid my bill on time, these phone operators always like to remind me what a good customer I am and how I've been with them for so long. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why you even talk to me like that, man? Like, don't you realize it should be there on my file in black and white, as bold as you can see it, that I'm suing your bank? So how the hell could I possibly be a good customer when your bank has tried everything under the sun to possibly destroy my life, destroy Uncle John's life, destroy my children's life, and destroy my grandchildren's life? Because that's pretty much what it's come down to, by allowing professional people to pick through these various acts and then misconstrued and convolute and distort and twist, and it's like an orgy. It's like an orgy that they brought to the fucking healthcare system to distract away from their criminal activity, which falls under this book, people. This book. It falls under this book.